Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a custom calendar, more specifically a 445 calendar. And the main concept behind these type of calendars is when you're trying to compare one month to another month in a regular calendar, it may not be a good comparison because months don't have a consistent number of days, right? In January would have 31 days, February could have 28 days, 29 days. And for businesses that want to compare months and kind of trends, you want to have a consistent number of days, right? And so what we can do is create a custom calendar. There's different types. There's calendars that have 4 weeks for a month, 4 weeks for the second month, and 5 weeks to the third month. This is kind of typical. There's also other ones that have that's a 454 calendar. 4 weeks for the first month, 5 weeks for the second month, 4 weeks for the third month. There's also a 544 month, and that's kind of same with the 445, but it's reversed. 5 weeks for the first, four for the second month, and 4 for the third month. And there's also a calendar that looks at 13 periods. These calendars have 13 months per year, and each is made of 4 weeks. But for this particular video, we're going to look at creating a 445 calendar. Now, I'm going to do it in Power Query, and I actually got some of the steps from a blog post from Ken Pulls, the Excel Guru blog. He's also a pair of dual for the M is for Data Monkey book. So him and Miguel Escobar created this great book that covers Power Query and all. But this is basically out of Ken Pulls' blog for some parts of it. And for other parts, I kind of added another spin to it. Now, to kind of get an idea of the 4-4 calendar, we have the first month is 4 weeks, right? So we have 28 days. The second month is 4 weeks. So we have 28 days. And the third month is 5 weeks. We have 35 days. And it repeats for each set of 3 months, right? So, and each quarter is going to be 91 days. So the 28, 28, 35, total of 91 days. And the full 445 calendar is 91 times 4, which is 365 days. So you see, we have our 365 days here. If we look at just the quarter, each quarter is going to have 91 days. And if we look at each of the months, month 1 is going to have 28 days. Month 2 is going to have 28 days, and then month 3 is going to have 35 days, right? So this is the final output that I had from trying to test this out, and this is what I got to kind of show you that each days for each of the particular type of time frames. So let's see how we can go about creating this. Let's open up a new Excel doc and we'll go through the process. So now I'm going to create a table here. We'll just call it dates, and we're going to have values here. Now this is going to be our start date. This will be the end date, and the value for the first start. So I'll think of a calendar that I'm familiar with. Let's say we're starting in July 31st, 2016, and the end date is going to be this value plus 364. As I mentioned before, a 13-week calendar is going to have 364 days. So now I've got that set up, and what I'm going to do now is put this into a table. Control T, make this a table. And what we're going to do is we are going to put this into Power Query. So Power Query is already there in Excel 2016. If you've got previous versions of Excel like 2013 or 2010, you're going to have to download it from Microsoft and enable it. But since I've got 2016, it's in the Data tab. What we need to do is create a query from the table, since we already created the table. So Power Query, the Power Query editor has brought in that table into the editor. I don't need this change type here. I'm going to delete that, remove that. And so what I want to do now is create an additional step. I'll click on the FX button, and where it says source here, the source is I'm going to take it from values, which is the name of this column, and I want to take the first instance of that. So the first instance of that is the start date from the value. So I want to take that. So that's going to be an index of 0. That's going to be that particular value. If I press enter, now you notice that it took that value there. And we don't really need this time here. What we want to do is we want to get the serial number for that date. And so what we need to do is wrap this around a M function called number dot from. and close it in parentheses and press enter. Right, so now we've got our start date there. And I'm going to rename this start date. And now I'm going to copy this. Select that, Control C to copy, add another step. Let's see if we add another step here, and Control V to paste. And we're going to make this 1. Because what happens is Power Query starts counting from 0. So 0 is that first record on that start date row, and then the second record, the end date row, is going to be 1, right? So that's going to be that particular number. I'm going to rename this, right click, oops, select this, right click, rename, and let's call this end date. Right. I'm also going to add a third step here. So I'm going to click on add step here again. So here what I'm going to do is type equal and start date, curly brackets, start date, dot dot, 2 dots, and then end date. And then close the curly brackets, press enter, and now you notice that there's going to be a list here. And these are the list of the date from the start date, number 1, all the way down to the bottom, which is going to be the end date, all the way down there, right? And what I want to do here now is put this into a table. So this is under list tools, I'm going to say convert to a table. So to convert this list into a table. And what we need to do now is just accept these particular parameters. We don't need to change anything here. Click OK, and it's going to turn into a table. And these are still in a serial number format. And what I want to do is turn these into a date. So I'll click on the type here, and I just want a date. And it's going to transform that into a date now. So I've got a list of dates that start at 7/31 and goes all the way down to the end 364 days is up to 7/30/2017, right? Let's go back up here. Let's give this a name. We can call this date key. And what I want to do now is I want to create an index column off of this date key. And so what we want to do is add the index column. We're under add column, go under index column, and we're going to start from the number 1. So it's going to add index column here. I'm going to call this column date ID. So I'll double click that, type date ID, press enter, and now we've got our date ID column here. Next, we want to enter a year ID column. So we're going to add a custom column here. I'll click on the custom column here. I'll type year ID. And for here, what I'm going to do is put in this function, number.round down, open parentheses. We want to round down this date ID minus 1 and divide it by 364 and then plus 1. So what this is going to do is it's going to take a look at the date ID. We'll see, and if we start here first, 1 minus 1 is 0, and it's going to give us the number 1, right? Because 0 divided by 364 is going to be 0. It's going to give us the number 1. So everything here, if you do the division, same here, 2 minus 1 is going to be rounded down. That's going to be rounded down to 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. So basically, the year ID is going to be that first year, right? So it's always going to be number 1 for anything within that first 364 days. I'm missing a parentheses. I had 2 closing ones. I need an opening one here. Click OK. And now I've got my year ID. So now what I want to do is add a quarter ID. I'm going to do kind of a very similar thing I did with the year ID. Add a custom column. And we're going to call this quarter ID. Quarter ID. And we're going to do the same thing here where we have our number, dot round down, and open parentheses twice. And we're also going to take our date ID, minus 1. Now we're going to divide it by 91. As we mentioned before, there's going to be 91 days in that quarter. And then we're going to add 1. Let's see, I also have an error here, so let's see where our error manifests itself. So I think I forgot to add it after the 1 here. Click OK. And now I've got my quarter IDs, right? So I also need to add a month ID. So the month ID is going to be a little bit more involved. Let's go and add custom column like we did before. And we're going to call this month ID. And now this is going to be this formula, number dot round down, open parentheses, day ID, divided by 91, and then close parentheses times 3, which is the months, and you got to add, and now we're going to have an if statement. If number dot mod, and the mod function basically gives you a remainder of numbers, and we're going to have this date ID divided by 91, and if that equals 0, then 0. I'm going to copy this so I don't have to type it all over again. Control C to copy, and that's going to equal 0. Else, if Control V to paste, if that is less than or equal to 28, which is going to be the first month, then 1. And then for the second month, that set of 4 weeks for the second month, we're going to say if it's less than or equal to 56, right? The 4 weeks, 28 plus 28, 2 months, then we're going to say that's the second month. Oops, I forgot to put the else if. And then after that, if we're assuming the third month, then we're just going to say it's going to be 3. Close parentheses. Let's see if we have any errors. I think we might have a parenthesis that we're missing somewhere. Let me try to find it. I think I had an extra parenthesis here. Right? Okay. Now click OK. And now we have our month ID. So now we can actually use these numbers to kind of build it out into a more, I guess, easier way to read. Because what these do, they give us IDs of the year, the quarter, and the month. But you see as we go down, it kind of increases to, you can see it increases to these numbers here, but there's not really that much context to think about how we can reflect these numbers as the fiscal year, the fiscal quarter, and a fiscal month, right? And kind of to show you like what happened, what it shows outside of the Power Query Editor, we can go to Home, Close and Load, and I'm just going to have a close and load to a worksheet, to a different worksheet here, right? So it'll be a new worksheet, table, new worksheet. So if you look at it, you can see that it's kind of built it out here, but it's not built it out into a way where you can really use it and have it reflect on an easy way to look at, how do you identify the year? We don't need this year ID, which is number 1. We need something like 2017, right? And quarter ID, we want it to say like Q1, 2, 3, or 4, and month ID maybe in quarter 4, which month is it? Month 1, 2, or 3, right? So we don't want it to say like 12. If we wanted to have that, what we need to do is do something a little bit different, add some additional columns, and we'll have to go back into Power Query to do that. So let's see how we can do that. So we'll go back into our Power Query. We will go back into the query here, right click, edit. You'll bring up our query editor, and I'm going to add one column. The first column I'm going to add is a fiscal year column. So under add column, let's go to custom column, and we're going to call this one fiscal year. And let's see it come up. All right, fiscal year. And what this is going to be is it's going to be this year ID minus 1, right, plus 20. I think we're starting this for fiscal year 2017. And I'm going to change that to make it more dynamic, but we're going to keep this here for now. And what we need to do is we need to kind of understand what this means. So if I click OK, and I see this fiscal year here, what it's going to tell me is it's going to take this year ID, number 1, minus 1, which is 0, and give me 2017. So that's fiscal year 2017, because if I just added that, then minus the 1, and added 2017, it'd be 2018. So that's what it's doing. Now the second column I want to create is this fiscal quarter. So I'll do add column, custom column, and I'll just call this fiscal quarter. I'll just abbreviate that. And this is going to be a little bit more complex. And what I want to do is I want to also put some if formulas. So here I'm going to base it off this month ID. This quarter ID, right? So we're doing fiscal quarter. I'm going to say if number.mod, open parentheses, and this quarter ID, comma 4, close parentheses. If that equals 0, then the number 4, right? And then else, I'm going to copy this number mod again. Control C to copy, Control V to paste. If that equals 1, then 1, else, and Control V to paste. If that equals, actually I should probably put a space here, make it easier to read. If that equals 2, then 2, and then else 3. Oh, I forgot to put the else if. So else if here, else if, okay. All right, so I got that here. So click OK. And now we have our fiscal quarter here. So I got to do the same thing for fiscal month. Add a custom column. Let's call this fiscal month. And we're going to do the same thing here, right? If number mod, open parentheses, and then the month ID, comma 3, close parentheses. If that equals 0, then 3, else if, and we're going to copy this. Control C to copy, Control V to paste. If that equals 1, then 1, and then since there's only 3 months, if it doesn't find it there, then we're going to say equals 2, else 2. All right, click OK. And now we have our fiscal months. So now what I can do here is go to Home, click Close and Load, and now it's going to load it into the table here. And to see if it reflected it, let's go and add some slicers to this table. Insert a slicer. We'll add the fiscal year, fiscal quarter, and fiscal month slicers. Click OK. Let's close this. And I have my fiscal year. Let's make that, let's just look for 2017. Let me move that over here. We got our fiscal quarter. And we have our fiscal month, right? Move that over there. And let's see if this worked out. So if my fiscal quarter, if I'm looking at first fiscal quarter, I have my 91 days, right? Second fiscal quarter, 91 days. Third fiscal quarter, 91 days. Fourth fiscal quarter, 91 days. So that reflects that. Now, let me look at fiscal quarter, first fiscal quarter and our first fiscal month. That should be 28 days. And you can see we have our 28 days. The second month should have 28 days. And the third month should have 35 days, right? The reason why it has 365 records is it included that one day. Let me clear these filters here. It included that one day in 2018, which is part of that. So, but we can just reflect that in 2017 here. And if we had some changes here, if I go to sheet 1, and we had changes here where we're trying to build this out for maybe 2 years, we do times 2, right? And we go into sheet 2 here, and we want to refresh this. Let's go to data. Oops, let's click out, press escape. Let's make sure that we did this right. Times 2, close parentheses, press enter. Now we have 2 years of 445 calendars. Go to sheet 2 here and go under data, refresh all. Now we're going to have a full set for fiscal year 2017 and 2018. Include 2019 because there's going to be that extra day, right? So if I just want to look at 2018, you'll notice here that I've got 2018, I've got 2017 here, and 2019, right? One thing that we may want to consider is not hard coding the 2017 there. Let's say, for example, we wanted to start at 2018 for our parameter here. And let's say our start date of 2018 was 7/30/2017. And I only want it 1 year, right? So let's see what happens. Press enter, go to sheet 2, and go under data, refresh all. You can see here that this fiscal year is still, let me unfilter it. It still starts in 2017, where we really wanted our fiscal year, even this started in the middle of calendar year 2017, but really it's reflective of fiscal year 2018. And I would have to go back into Power Query. Let me show the query. Right click edit. And we would have to change that in the editor here. So somewhere in one of these steps where we did the fiscal year, I think it was this one, we'd have to change this to 2018. But there's a way that we can get around that by creating a cell which we can put into here, into this formula. Let's get out of that. And what we can do is we can create another table here. We can call it starting fiscal year. And we'll say this is 2018, right? Because that's what we're started at. Let me double click this auto fit. Turn this into a table, Control T. And we also want to bring this into Power Query. So we go under Data and From Table. That's fine to having the change type here because it's going to be a number. And what I want to do is I want to drill down to this number. So I'm going to right click, go to drill down. And it's just going to have just that number. And I'll call this FY start. I'm going to copy that to Control C to copy. And go to Home. And we're just going to load this as a connection. Close and load. Make sure this is a connection. Yep, create only connection. Click on load, and it's going to have that connection there. So what I want to do is go back to table 1, right click, edit. And where it had that 2017 or 2018 hard coded, I'm going to put the name of that query in there, right? So it had it under here in custom 3. Delete that. Control V to paste. And that's going to reflect that particular one cell value that I had there in that table, right? So it's going to reflect that 2018. So if I change this date, if I change my start date back to when I had it as 7/31 dash, and this started in 2016, right? And I also had this year. If I didn't change that, you would see that it would be reflected here, right, as 2018, which is incorrect. So if I refresh this, the fiscal year for those start and end dates is not 2018. But if I went back here and changed it to 2017, oops, and then go into sheet 2 and click on refresh all, then it's going to reflect back as 2017. And now I can also build something out of this, just combine all these together, right click here. I have to go back into this table, edit it, and create another column just to combine them all together. So this is how we can do that, to make it all kind of one particular column value. So I can go to, let's see, I'm in here in the last one. That's the fiscal month. I'll go into add column, add custom column, and this could be my fiscal year, quarter, and month, right? So I'll call this column fiscal year, QQ for quarter, and then MM for month. And what I'm going to do is put in quotes FY for fiscal year, and then ampersand. This is going to join the fiscal year. And I can't just join that together because this is going to be a number and it's going to join it into a string. So I have to type in text from fiscal year, and then another join, ampersand the join, open parentheses, dash Q for quarter, not parentheses, open and close quotes, and then also put another join and text dot from, and I have the quarter here, and also do another join, and we're going to do this as month. So this is going to be quote dash M, close quotes, ampersand, and text dot from, and we're going to have our fiscal month. Click OK, and we should have our column here, which is an error. Let's see what happened in our error. Let me click on that. What is it looking for? Function key fiscal year. So let's go back into the function here, click on the gear icon, double click, and let's see what happened here. Oh, I see what happened. I forgot to enclose these in parentheses. All right, so let's enclose these in parentheses, and that in parentheses, and let's enclose this one in parentheses. That's what is happening. It's expecting that. Click OK, And now we have our fiscal year, our quarter, and our month. Go to Home, click Close and Load. And we should have an extra column here. Let's close this window and select that, Control A to select all the other objects here and just kind of move them aside here. Right? And so now if I want 2017, I've got everything for 2017, 364 days. Maybe I want the first quarter, which is going to be 91 days, and maybe the third month, which should be 35 days. And of course, second month is 28, and the first month is 28 days. So there's how we can create a customized calendar, basically a 445 calendar using Power Query. And even though it's a little bit long, once we have this created, it's basically a template for us now. And we can go in, and if we want multiple years, we can say 364 times 3, put that in parentheses, right? Press enter. Our starting year is still 2017. It's going to take us from fiscal year 2017, 18, and 19. Go into sheet 2 here and go to data, refresh all. We're going to see that we have a bunch of other fiscal year calendars. If we go to 2018, our fiscal calendar first month, we got our 28 days in the first month. The second month got 28 days. Third month got 35 days. If we clear that filter out, it should have 91 days in total. And you can see we have our 91 days in total. So we can put this table and we can do VLOOKUPs with another table where it's reflective of our fiscal years and fiscal quarters and fiscal months. So we can do VLOOKUPs on that and kind of adjust it now. So there's how you can create a customized calendar, basically a 445 calendar using Power Query. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.